Well, Happy New Year. Thank you all for coming out to the regular meeting agenda for the city of South Fulton. This time I would like to just acknowledge our new council person, Mr. Corey Reeves. Very excited by having Corey. This is his first meeting. I think he's going to do a great job for us. Also, I want to acknowledge we have the chaplain cadets here. I got you. Yeah. One of the requirements, I understand, they got to shadow the chaplain. I'm just teasing. They have to come out to a meeting, so good to having you guys. Thank you very much. At this time, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
We need to close the executive session as well.
I'm sorry. I'll accept the motion to close the executive session.
I make a motion to close the executive session.
Second.
Been properly moved to second in discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor? That passed. Am I looking right? Can I see your hands again? That passes, okay?
Roll call for today. Councilmember Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Khalid.
Present.
Councilmember Reeves.
Accounted for.
Councilmember Gilliard.
Here.
Councilmember Willis.
Present.
Councilmember Gumbs.
Accounted for.
Councilmember Rowell. Also present is Mayor Edwards, City Manager Odie Donald, and City Attorney Emilia Walker. You have a quorum.
Okay, let us stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Oh, gracious God, we truly thank you. We thank you for this brand new year that you've allowed all of us to enter into together. We reminded, oh God, that this is your city and we are your people. You have placed us here to do a great work. For all that is required of us, we ask you to continue to pour out your wisdom and knowledge upon all of us, so that everything that we say and everything that we do will be for the good of those who are coming behind us, that the legacy that we live and that we leave will be one that they can benefit from. This we pray. Let us all say amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
I know some of y'all were looking for the flag. We left the flag, but we won't leave the flag again. Okay, Madam Clerk.
This item is a proclamation presented to Mr. Johnson, and I don't think he's here.
Okay, well, who's that?
No, we're gonna move one second.
We'll move. Let's go ahead.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is adoption of council agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that we have not done is accept Fulton County's election report from November 5th, 2019, and per our minutes, that was supposed to be on this agenda. So I'd like to add that.
Okay.
Is there any preference from where? Let me see.
What are you adding again?
That we have not accepted the election report from
Okay.
Fulton County for November 5th. So I'd ask that can we add it? We can't add it to the consent, right? Can I?
You can if you want to, if it's a vote.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Agreed not to add to the consent agenda.
Okay, that's what I just asked. So let me just do it under, after item 15.
It can be the first item under agendas.
That's fine.
Okay. Are there any more changes?
we have some, you want to take consent agenda items too? Or you want to wait to that?
Yes, I want all changes.
Okay, go
And then,
ahead.
and then
Go
one
ahead.
more change, if you will. Under item 15, my appointment for, I'm going to change Ms. Thomasine Blunt Roberts to the City Anniversary Committee, and so that would just leave a vacancy on the, for the Older Americans Board for me.
Okay. Ms. Gilliard, so next, and then Mr. Baker.
Give her to the microphone.
I have a question about the consent agenda, the Ethics Board. I wanted to, because we're going to be voting on the consent agenda, and it's on the consent agenda, and I wanted to, rather than to just blanketly vote, I wanted to know whether or not the Ethics Board has had training. We're about to get it, but they haven't had it yet, and they've had quite a few cases, maybe 3 or 4 cases.
Correct.
So they haven't had any training yet, and that concerns me.
Yes, Councilmember Gilliard, the Ethics Board actually has scheduled training with a representative from GMA for January 25th. So they do have that scheduled, and they are having a robust agenda to address that training.
One more ad.
Excuse me, Mr. Baker was Mr. Khalid. Mr. Khalid.
Are you just doing the consent agenda, or are you asking for all changes?
All changes. All changes.
I want to remove Roman numeral number 8 from the agenda, and I would like to make item number 29, the first reading of the amended budget, I would like to put that right after our city finance officer's report.
Okay.
Are you saying remove number 8, which is the vetoes, from the agenda?
Yes, I am. That is my motion.
I don't think we're through with the changes just yet.
Okay. That will be my motion, sorry.
You have one?
Yes. My motion would be to add the litigation investigative hearing invoices.
Make your motion again.
I move that we add the investigative.
I think there was more change, Councilmember Rowell. Can't hear you. Need.
Hold on.
My appointee to the board, Code Enforcement Board, would be Yoshima Colbert Bradford.
Code enforcement. Yeah, it's a full appointment. And Councilmember Reeves wanted to add the appointments of Johnny Clerk to the Parks Advisory Board and Jane Williams to the Ethics Board.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. What's your point of order?
Can we add things? I thought she asked for everything that we removed, and it's okay.
Everything
Add.
removed or changed, yes.
Okay, so someone up here just added.
Is this, this is the main agenda, right? Because somebody just asked to remove vetoes. So we're on main
She asked
agenda.
for all
All
changes.
changes.
So if you can't add, I think that Councilwoman Willis added her attorney fees to that.
She added it to the regular agenda.
Right. So.
So she wouldn't be able to add it to the consent, but she would be able to add it to the, just can't add it, you can't add it to the consent.
And she's asked for
Okay.
all
She
changes.
asked for all changes.
Yeah,
So that's just
she did.
that addition is to the regular agenda.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
So that would be for Mayor Edwards and my attorney
Okay.
fees. Thank you.
Okay, any other changes?
I think Councilmember Gilliard wanted to pull item number 31.
31. Is this a,
We gave you a handout with the agenda. Under addendum items,
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
missing, that was originally missing from the agenda.
Right.
But I got some comments from Christopher Pike, and we have not had an opportunity to discuss those comments.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't ask that it be added to the agenda, so I want to take it off
Okay,
until we can have that discussion.
until further notice?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other changes?
So items 16 through 20, my recommendation would be to remove, and those are the Ethics Board recommendations. Pursuant to your ethics ordinance, the only thing that comes to the council are final recommendations, and that the definition of a final recommendation is something that proceeds through a preliminary hearing, and there's a formal investigation. So if it doesn't make it to the point of a substantive hearing for the Ethics Board, then it is within their purview to dismiss without it coming to council. So if they dismiss voluntarily, or if the party dismisses voluntarily, or if the board dismisses voluntarily, then that decision is final and that doesn't come before council.
And what are we having here?
Ms. Walker, two of those did proceed to preliminary hearing.
Okay, well, so the two that proceeded, then they would stay on, but the ones that did not have a final hearing yet or did not proceed to a final hearing, those should be removed.
That's what she's saying. Which two?
So you need a motion for that? Is that what you're saying?
Well, just as part of the amendments that you're doing, the ones that did not proceed to a final hearing from the Ethics Board would need to come off the agenda because your ordinance does not require that to get approval from the council. What the board dismisses, then it's within their authority that you've given them to dismiss.
So give us the two that did that.
Okay, that's new information for us because we had a couple of Ethics Board hearings several months ago that were put on the agenda. The two that proceeded to preliminary hearing were, off the top of my head,
No, you gotta hold it because I can't have it off the top of your head. Hold up, hold up.
yeah, they're right here.
Okay.
(2019-05), Sir Jose Bright versus Helen Willis.
All right.
That did proceed to a preliminary hearing, as well as complaint 2019-06, Helen Willis versus Jewel Johnson.
Okay. So those are, you're saying that only those two would stay and the rest, Madam Clerk, to make those changes?
I got it.
Any other changes?
What number were those? What item number?
19 and 20.
19 and 20 are staying.
They're staying. Any other changes? Okay, Madam Clerk.
Okay, I will repeat the changes to the agenda. Remove items 10 and 11, items 16, 17, and 18, items 31. Those items are removed from the agenda. Change Thomasina Roberts to the City Anniversary Task Force Committee instead of the Older Members Board.
Hold it.
I'm repeating the changes to the agenda.
But you said the vetoes you took off?
I'm repeating the changes that were stated so that a motion can be made.
We're not going to be able to make a single motion because all the changes don't agree with one another, so we're probably going to need to vote on them separately.
Acknowledged you. Let me
sorry.
finish the
Sorry.
conversation with the clerk. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm stating all the changes that was given to me. And then you guys,
You want to vote on them collectively? Is that what you? That's my problem. Go ahead. I recognize you.
I believe what the clerk is attempting to do is to repeat all of them back to make sure she has them.
Okay, that's
And
fine.
then, based on whether you want to do them individually or collectively,
I got
a
you.
member
Go
of the
ahead.
body can introduce.
Thank you so much. Go ahead,
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Clerk.
add the vote for the Fulton County, accepting the Fulton County elections report to just before item number 24. and add the invoices for Mayor Edwards and Councilmember Willis, invoices for the investigative hearing to the agenda, the bottom of the agenda.
So can we take those individually? Madam Clerk,
I'm sorry,
can we take those individually?
it's at the will of the council.
I have a question, do you mind?
Go ahead.
So, if someone removes an item, such as the vetoes 10 and 11, what happens? Does it just come back the next council meeting?
I would have to defer to the attorney.
Because it doesn't die. I mean, it has to be voted on.
Madam Attorney?
So it would be, if they remove it, it would be dependent on the reason for removing. So if, my recommendation would be to just clarify your reason for removing, and then that would put in the record the reason that they were removed.
That's why we didn't do these individually. Okay. Yes, sir.
So an opportunity for compromise on two of those items, that if one was removed and one of the new ones that was added, if y'all came to an agreement on it, it looks like you could solve one of the challenges that you have.
Well, let's see about that when we call it up. Go ahead.
Okay. As for a vote on removing items 10 and 11 from the agenda.
10 and 11.
The veto for the vote of the approved city attorney's contract, and veto of the vote approving resolution 2019-060, investigative hearing.
You want to state why, Mr. Khalid?
Sure. I think our agenda is a little backwards, so the two changes that I propose together, I think, gets us a right set of priorities. The one constitutionally required thing that any legislative body is required to do, from Congress to the state legislature to the county to the city, the one thing we're required to do is approve a budget and oversee that budget. I mean, that's literally the point of government, is that you all give us your money and then you appoint people to decide how to spend your money, but like that's our main job. It's at the bottom of the agenda. And at the top of the agenda is drama from 2019 that we already decided. We all held hands and said we were gonna move forward. It's at the top of the agenda. So we're gonna talk about that in prime time. And then around 10:30, 11, when most of you all are gone, when no one is watching, that's when we'll decide about the money. That's ridiculous. So I'm saying that right after we hear the report of the chief financial officer and it's fresh in our minds, we should probably, in public, make whatever changes to the budget need to be made in public while everyone is here and paying attention. And then, I don't know, maybe at 11 o'clock, if we still want to rehash what happened in 2019, I guess y'all can add that back. I don't know.
Okay. Let me say this. Last meeting, we put public hearing down to the last part of the agenda. You all were there. They want you to speak at the end of the agenda. What we have here is a vote that we're going to take that I feel as mayor, and people may not agree with me, but we'll decide that when the time comes, is that I did a veto. The charter says that you must entertain that veto at the next regular scheduled meeting. That is tonight. Anything between that, I personally feel, and I have checked with other folk, I feel has been totally illegal. So we're just carrying out the mandates of the charter that says if I veto it, whether you like it or not, that you address it at the next regular meeting. So I'm not trying to hash up nothing. We understand we're in 220, we've gone through some times, and we're finished with that. But we have to perfect our record The mayor has made a veto. We got to perfect that record and make and vote on that veto at this regular meeting. That's all I have to say about it. Go ahead.
I have something to say, and
I'm sorry.
oh, I got two.
Yeah. You got two microphones.
And it's about both vetoes, okay? And the one that concerns me, they both concern me, but the one that concerns me the most is the second one. And the reason why it does, and it's the investigative hearing one, is because I have a sick relative and I had to leave. I had to leave the hearing. When I left the hearing, that left everything exposed. Exposed to what? The meeting was shut down. There was no vote. It wasn't concluded. So now we've had a hearing. Hearing's not concluded. And by the way, we could bring that back any day and finish it. But what are we going to do tonight? Veto it and get rid of it. But this is a new year, so there's nothing different. Okay? The second thing, and I'm going to be finished in a second. The second thing is the attorney's contract. We all voted on it. We're getting emails about it from people in districts everywhere. It's almost same money as the first law firm, but just $100,000 more added to it for litigation. You know any attorney that can go to court and do any case for $100,000? So some of you, and I said this before, during the hearing, were at our budget meeting. And I asked during that budget meeting for $1 million in the contingency fund to be transferred from it. For it to be for the attorney for litigation. And all we did was to move it. Because we are getting litigated, and we've got litigation everywhere. But there's a real big one that I've been fighting for 2 years and haven't gotten anywhere with it. And this veto is going to kill it. So the big question is why? Nothing has changed. This is 2020, and people can talk about, oh, we need to make peace, we need to do different, we are who we are. Nothing has changed.
Let me just say this. I want to make it clear. When Mrs. Gilliard left the podium, I turned to the attorney and I asked the question, do you have any more witnesses? The attorney said, I rest. Then I turned to the other attorneys and I asked them, do you have any witnesses? They said, no.
He said 6. That's why
Before you
left.
left.
That's why I left.
He said no when I asked him.
Because he said 6. That's
well,
why
he said
I
no
left.
when I asked him. So then Ms. Rowell made a motion that was seconded by Ms. Willis, and 3 votes was made to move on to adjourn the meeting. Now, you can say we tricked you or whatever the case may be, but just let me tell you what I did. I did what every mayor does by the charter. I broke a tie. That's what I'm obligated to do in the charter. I broke the tie. So it was not like I could have stayed there as long as they wanted to, but there was a motion on the floor and I didn't make it. But I broke the tie. So we're not going to linger on this too much because I think we don't want to. We've come a long way. I'm going to let you speak and let Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate you allowing me to speak. I empathize with Councilmember Gilliard about having a sick relative. I have a sick mother who is suffering with multiple myeloma. But she could not spend her time with her child over the holidays, Thanksgivings, Christmas, because her child was involved in an unnecessary investigative hearing. And no, I could not leave. I had to sacrifice and sit through the 8.5-hour hearing. The residents heard the facts. They heard people speak under oath. The residents are tired of this foolishness, and they want us to move on.
All right, let's move on.
And they have they have overabundantly sent emails, put stuff out on social media. The residents are tired, and they are ready to move on. The attorney that the 4 people voted to get, upon the request of our city attorney, he rested his case. If it was in the best interest of my attorney and the mayor's attorney not to call any witnesses, that was their prerogative. It was voted on legally to dismiss the hearing. It was a 3-3 tie. The mayor had a right to break the tie, and that's it.
Okay, let me have Ms. Rowell, then Ms. Gums, and then Mr. Baker, I think. All right, Ms. Baker?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then we'll go on.
Clarification, I thought item 11, I think it should read investigative hearing officer was my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would want to amend it to deal with that, because it was not to deal with the investigative hearing itself, the officer, which was the previous point. So I think that needs to be corrected. And I just want to encourage us all.
Yeah.
We have to move forward. Everywhere I go, people not just in my area, but across the city, they're expecting us to move forward, and that's what we need to do. And I hope we do that in this meeting and just focus on the people's business. We have a very long agenda. We have 31 items. We're not going to agree on everything, but I don't think we should keep belaboring these points.
Right. Ms. Rowell, and then we'll close it, Mr. Baker. Ms. Gums, rather. Okay. Mr. Baker?
Okay, I think that I'm not going to beat the dead horse. I think that we didn't dismiss anything, but we did adjourn the meeting. If we adjourn, I know just because I was there, they did say that he had 6 witnesses to call, and I know that that's why Councilwoman Gilliard left. However, the mayor's right. He did vote. It is his right, according to the charter, to vote when it's a tie. But the motion made by my colleague, Councilwoman Rowell, wasn't to dismiss. It was to adjourn, which is a totally different motion from dismissing anything, which means nothing was proven, nobody was necessarily vindicated. I think that more than anything, we're all tired. We're all tired. I don't think that we're trying to belabor the point and bring it back, even though it wasn't dismissed. It was adjourned, which is part of the reason I have an issue when it comes to paying for the mayor and my colleagues' attorneys. So we have to deal with all of these things, but I think that lastly, the most important issue is that we did have a meeting where a majority of this council made a vote, and we found the mayor's veto to be invalid, both of them, according to the charter, according to our city attorney, and we all voted. So I think that the biggest reason that we're here and we're discussing this currently is because it's back again, and now we're rehashing an open wound. And it's my understanding that if we allow this to come back, or if we allow the mayor to exercise these rights that aren't interpreted properly by the charter, we're making him a strong mayor in our city, which means we're changing our charter. There's groups already in the city that are having meetings about the possibility of changing our charter. I think that this is a city manager form of government. It's not the city of Atlanta. I think that you guys elected 7 council members to represent you guys in our form of government. Is not a strong mayor form of government. And so if we allow these vetoes to remain on here after we've already, as a majority of council, deemed them in a public meeting to be invalid, we're moving forward in a direction off course from our charter. So I agree with Councilman Khalid removing these items because they were already deemed invalid by this body.
Okay, let me close. Let me close. And Ms. Walker, to talk to you, I gave you a phone call the other day and asked you to come to my office at 3:30, and you came, right? And my comments to you was that in terms of your contract, that contract was not appropriate. It was not appropriate for several reasons. I said it was not to get rid of you or anything. It says that maybe we'll give you another contract that we all can have a part in, because all of us didn't have a part in that contract. And I wanted you to make, and Kamala, you hit on it back in the back. I want you to know that that's exactly what the veto was about. Let's get a contract. I haven't seen it. Several of us hadn't seen it until that night. So we'll go get you another contract if that's what's the case. But it's nothing here. I accepted a weak mayor form of government. I accepted that. I don't have time to run it. I'm fine. I'm fine with the form of government that we have right now. We just work together and get it done. I don't care about being a strong mayor. I don't. I have not tried to lobby to get to be a strong mayor. I'm fine, ladies and gentlemen, doing the job that I do here now. So let's do this. Is there a motion on the floor? I'll entertain one. What was it? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to remove the vetoes from this agenda.
Second.
Any upcoming agendas as well, because it would be invalid by this body.
Second.
Being properly moved and second. Well, I think we had enough discussion. Yeah, go ahead.
So, is she willing to allow us? Well, she did mention that she will allow us to review the contract. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and the contract says that you guys can change anything at any time. So I mean, the contract is basically, I serve at your pleasure. So whatever you collectively want to do, I'm agreeable to entertaining that. I'm always open to whatever the council, whatever a quorum of you want to move forward and do. That's okay. what I'll entertain.
I want to go on the record by saying removing these vetoes and not trying to prevent us from addressing them or voting on them is a violation of the charter. The charter says that vetoes are to be voted on. It's specific and it's clear at the next regular meeting. This is the next regular meeting, and if you don't agree on a veto, then you vote no. You don't void vetoes and you don't remove them from the agenda. The charter is clear. Okay. So anybody who votes on removing these vetoes and prohibiting the vote is in violation of the charter.
Okay. Let's vote, please.
Actually,
let's vote. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that it's important before we move forward that everybody notes that this isn't about the city attorney's contract. This is about how we're going to do business moving forward in our city. As far as if we're going to move forward, and Councilwoman Willis is only partially right, because the reality of it is the charter is not clear. The charter speaks to his ability to veto ordinances and budget, I believe budget items, but not necessarily resolutions. And these, I believe, were 2 resolutions that we deemed invalid, and that's why. So we're not violating the charter when we're not violating the charter by taking this vote, nor are we changing it. It's just an acknowledgement that the vetoes, according to the charter, were not deemed valid by our body in a public meeting per our attorney. I yield, Councilman Khalid.
Okay,
So he yielded. I just want to say very quickly that this is how agendas work. If you put something on the agenda, we talk about it. So if you put 2019 on the agenda, we'll talk about 2019. Just a time check, it's 7:45. It's almost 8 o'clock. We haven't started the meeting yet. We're actually in a discussion about approving one agenda item, and then we have several other agenda items to approve. It'll be after 8 o'clock before we start proclamations because someone put 2019 on the menu. So we're going to talk about 2019.
Okay, let's vote, please.
I forgot what we voted.
The vote is to remove items 10 and 11 from this meeting and any future meetings.
Let's vote. Let's vote. All those in favor? That passed for lack of 4 votes. I mean, it fails for lack of 4 votes.
So if we vote,
It's already, we gotta move on. You already voted on it. Move on.
Let's go out. Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Okay, so the remaining changes for the agenda,
Excuse me.
the remaining changes for the agenda is to move item number 29 under the CFO's report. The change in the Older Americans Board to the City Anniversary Task Force, removing items 16, 17, 18, adding the Fulton County election certification just before item number 24, and removing item 31, and adding the legal bills for the hearing for the mayor and Councilmember Willis.
I entertain a motion.
I move that we approve those changes.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion, Ms. Rowell?
I need you to put hearing officer on the back.
I got it.
All right, hearing no other discussion, all those in favor? That passes.
Next item on the agenda, approval of city council meeting minutes. The special call meeting minutes from November 26, 2019. Do you want me to do them individually or collectively?
You can go collectively. Is that okay with the council, if she does them collectively?
Please.
Okay, do.
Special call meeting December 3rd, 2019. Regular council meeting December 10th, 2019. Special call meeting December 16th. Special call meeting December 27th. Special call meeting December 30th. Investigative hearing minutes December 10th. And investigative hearing minutes December 30th.
I'll entertain a motion.
Councilmember Rowell.
I make a motion to approve the minutes with a couple editorial corrections. One on page 21, we should record the nays for Mr. Baker, Councilman Baker, and Councilman Khalid. On page 14, it should say, in 16, it should say Southwood Arts Center rather than Cliftondale Community Center. So, approving those minutes with those editorial
Do
corrections.
you have those corrections, Ms.?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Who seconded?
Ms.
Willis.
Yeah. All those in favor? That passes.
Next item on the agenda, public comments. No, I'm sorry. Veto for the vote of the approved city attorney's contract.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, is it? Okay.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to remove these vetoes. Second. And never have them come up again, ever.
Okay?
what,
Proper moved in second. Discussion?
You need to make a motion to override the
I'm sorry, no,
vetoes.
actually, I'm not going to make a motion to override them. I'm going to make a motion to rule them invalid.
You can't do that.
Actually, I believe that in Robert's rules, it's called a question of the, you're calling a question of the case. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting my Robert's rules right now. But we can't ask for a hearing of the body in Robert's rules. And I'm asking for a hearing of the body to approve this invalid. And then if you want to keep talking about 2019, we can do it in Fulton County Superior Court instead of wasting time in our council meetings doing it.
Charter says
So that is my motion.
that
Period. And then this motion is to declare that it's legally invalid.
A second time, because we did that.
okay, let's do that. Okay. You got a motion. You got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Can you raise your hand higher, Ms. Gilliard? That's 4, sir.
That's 4. It passed.
Can I make an amendment?
Veto,
What you want to do?
I would like to make a motion, or I guess an amendment, in regards to making sure that we all have an opportunity to view the city attorney's contract.
Properly moved and second.
Discussion.
Discussion, Mr. Baker.
I think that is not germane to to the action just taken. We're talking about whether or not these vetoes are valid. We just voted and deemed them invalid. So that is not even germane to our topic right now, whether we view it. Actually, she did say that she'll allow us to do it anyway, but that's really not germane.
Well, Mr. Val, I'm Mr. Baker. I'm gonna disagree with you. We've already made the motion. That's out of the way. She's making a motion. Are you making another motion? Yes. And that's what her motion is, to look at the attorney's contract. So that is germane. It has nothing to do with the previous motion.
We don't need a motion for that.
Okay, go ahead.
It's an executive session.
Did we get a second on your motion?
I did.
Okay.
I did, but I want to do a friendly amendment, because what we discussed is having an outside attorney review the contract.
Contract, we can just do it in executive session.
No, I'm saying my motion, we want an outside attorney. That's best practice. We need to have an outside attorney from GMA or another source to just review the contract.
So you would need a motion to get the outside attorney.
Yeah.
Properly moved to second. Discussion?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We are still talking about 2019. Can
no,
we
we're
stop
talking about a motion
about
that's on this-
2019?
excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry, sir. I have the floor.
You-
And I was almost done. I was just going to ask, when can we stop talking about 2019?
Okay. All right. Let's vote. All those in favor? That passes. Okay. Madam Clerk.
number 11, veto of the vote to approve the resolution 2019-06 investigative hearing officer.
We just voted to move both of them together.
He voted to move both. He voted, the motion was for both. Okay. All right.
Now, public comments. Speaker.
Let me, before that, the honoree for the proclamations come in, I want to get that out of the way.
Proclamation, Mayor and Council to present a proclamation to, what's this?
Marshall.
Marshall Antonio Johnson.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I just said.
I think we should do it up here.
I do too. We can do it right back there.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
Apologize.
So let, excuse me, will somebody let him know I'm not being disrespectful, I'm just holding. I just want to sit down. Is that
Madam, give it to me. I appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Marshall Johnson, this is bittersweet. And we did not want you to retire from Fulton County without honoring you and thanking you for all you have done to support the city of South Fulton. You have been with the county by way of the sheriff office first. Then you went on to advance on to become the marshal you served our county for over 30 years. And now you're moving on to run for DeKalb County Sheriff. And so that's why I say it's bittersweet, because we trained you in Fulton County to move on to greater things, and another county is going to benefit. And so today, whereas Antonio was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, graduated from Charles Hopper High School and DeVry University, and whereas he served this nation in the United States Air Force Reserve and was ultimately appointed as First Sergeant for the 622 Regional Support Group, 22nd Numbered Air Force, Dobbins Air Force Base. And whereas Antonio Johnson began his law enforcement career with Fulton County Sheriff Department in 1987, upon joining Fulton County, Antonio Johnson served as Deputy Sheriff. Antonio continued to move through the ranks of Sheriff Office, serving as Assistant Director of Training Academy, Commander of Court Services, Protective Measures Unit, and the Administrative Major overseeing personnel and payroll and budget. And whereas on March 21st, 2007, Antonio Johnson was appointed to the position of Fulton County Marshal, and under Antonio's leadership, the Fulton County Marshal's Department maintained its national accreditation by the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, CALEA, and attained CALEA's Gold Standard Award in 2018, and led the Fulton County Marshal's Department into the second century as more professional and dynamic law enforcement agency. Whereas Marshal Johnson has always been a great partner with the city of South Fulton and was very instrumental after a South Fulton subdivision was hit by a tornado, sending his officers out to ensure the homes were safe and protected. And whereas Marshal Johnson announced his retirement from Fulton County Marshal Office, concluding 31 years of faithful service to Fulton County and its citizens. Now, there it be resolved, the mayor and city council honors the years of service Antonio Johnson has provided to the citizens of Fulton County, does hereby proclaim Tuesday, December 10th, 2019, actually it's today because you were supposed to get it, we changed the date, Antonio Johnson Appreciation Day in the city of South Fulton, Georgia.
With Councilman Willis, that's what you call adapt, improvise, and overcome when you change the date. You got to keep it moving. Hey, I'm really humbled and appreciative of the city of South Fulton giving me this proclamation. And I am a Grady baby. I grew up in Southwest Atlanta. Served I was 3 months shy of 32 years, but I was Fulton County government, the city of South Fulton. I really love this community. Unfortunately, I had to, sometimes you have to just close a chapter and open up a new chapter. And I am so blessed to have the state court judges for 3 terms allow me to serve as the marshal and lead in the troops. Also, I'm appreciative of the sheriff department. I was there 19 years and came up through the ranks. And Mayor Edwards, commissioner back then, he was always supportive of me in his role as commissioner. But the city of South Fulton, I really think that this is a blessing to have a good city. I know it's young, but it's vibrant, and I'm very proud of the city of South Fulton. My best friend grew up on Buckner Road, and I remember coming in the 80s, coming down Buckner Road, and I tell you, it wasn't no houses back in those days on Buckner Road. So I have rode up and down Bucknell Road, Camp Creek all my life, and I just want to say thank you all for taking the time out to honor me with this proclamation, and I'm very appreciative and I'm very humble, and I just want to say I love you all, and go Fulton County, City of South Fulton, and thank you.
All right. Here you go, man. Did you want to say? Okay. Here you go. And this is going to call you.
Before we begin, would you all mind turning our cell phones off or on silent, please? Madam Clerk?
Next will be the public comments. Speakers will be granted a total of 2 minutes each, and public comments will not exceed 30 minutes. Speakers will not be allowed to yield or donate their time to other speakers. Speakers must identify themselves and their address prior to speaking. Speakers may only address the presiding officer, shall observe all rules of decorum. No debate, disrespect, or obscenities shall be tolerated. The presiding officer shall rule any such individual out of order that fails to comply with the foregoing. We have a total of 12. And as I call your name, please line up in front of the podium. The first one is the city manager request, Mandy Renova, Jewel Johnson, Reverend Pinion Lockhart, Jose Bright.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Per the Mayor's request, I would like to go ahead and address the issue that has come forth to the citizens, the Mayor, Council, and staff. As a representative from GFL Waste Industries, I am here to make a public statement that we have incurred a billing error that has reached 2,100 residents in the city of South Fulton. We will be crediting this fee back to the invoices that was issued in error. We will be resolving the concerns of the customers via chat at our website, www.wasteindustries.com, at our customer care department at the telephone number of 770-474-9273. I welcome council, staff, and mayor to send me any requests that need to be resolved. They're irate or need immediate attention. Again, this is a public statement stating that we will credit these fees back to the invoice.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year to those of you that I may not have said Happy New Year to. I'm here tonight because as one of your employers, and you have many in the city of South Fulton, I have sat here tonight and listened to you. One thing that I do know, that we all are defined by our personality by age 6. You are who you are. But with that being said, I have learned to accept people for who they are. And the next thing that I'd like to share with you, no matter what it is, we must move to be able to work together in some form or another. And I have said this over many times to my council person, that we must find a way. You don't have to change each other. You don't have to take each other home, but you do have to serve the people. And there are many people that have employed you. We are your employees. And what I'd like to say to you, go to work for 2020. Make some changes that's going to be in the best interest of the people and not yourselves. Because all of you are not without flaws. We all have flaws because we are individuals. So we have to take this to a higher level. And I want to say this real quick before my time runs out. We have a litigation on the table where they are trying to turn over my subdivision back to Atlanta, and just look at all the money that Loch Lomond brought back to this city. And there's been very little people that has been supporting this from this council, from mayor on down, even my council person. And I'm going to ask her tonight on the 27th, when we go back to court, that she be there in representation of District 1 to fight for your district.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Pennon Lockhart. I am president of the Chippewa Forest Homeowners Association, District 7. Many of the older subdivisions within South Fulton, such as the Chippewa Forest subdivision where I live, were constructed utilizing underground septic tank systems through which domestic wastewater flows for basic sewer treatment. These aging systems require maintenance that has often been neglected, and some homes have become rental property, which has exacerbated the problem due to negligent landlords and homeowners who ignore the maintenance of these sewage systems. The purpose of my appeal tonight is to address the negative environmental impact on the neighborhood and the water table. Two locations I cite in particular. One is at 420 Overturner Circle, where wastewater has been running since May of 2019 from the yard into the gutter and into the nearest street culvert. I have reported this across the street from there at 425. This is a rental property. The landlord refused to address the issue for months until the sewage backed up into the tenant's garage, destroying several items, and it began flowing toward the neighbor's residence to the south. Now, this raw exposure of sewage lasted for about 10 days until I was able to connect with the Fulton County Board of Health. There are several young children that live here in this particular residence, the tenants, and there was a baby also less than 2 months old. And as I look back, we had called code enforcement and a number of other agencies. And of course, code mentioned to me that this was not a code enforcement issue. So I'm saying that we need, as a city, clear-cut guidelines of how to report these type of infractions in order to obtain timely responses and correction as well. One last thing, when the one property, when they finally opened the septic tank and bust through the solid waste, there was a plume of methane gas that went higher than the roof. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jose Bright.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Sir Jose Bright. I'm a resident of District 4. Compliments of the new year. I hope that in 2020 we can move on with the work of the city. There are some outstanding issues that need to be resolved, and all effort needs to be put in place. We still have burning at Bishop Road, illegal, toxic landfill. And we have photographs that we're going to share with you a little later. That has to be resolved. Carcinogenic elements are pluming in the air, the water, and the soil. On an economic development front, we really need to move forward with an economic development strategy. I don't understand what the delay is right now, but we need to do something to stimulate our economy and our city, and the direction taken in the strategic plan for the city, as well as the work undertaken by the Economic Development Administration, needs to be moved forward. There's also the concern of the increase in warehouses popping up in Union City adjacent to our city, specifically in District 4. I don't understand what's going on with the interrelationships, and I know there's sovereignty in both municipalities, but this city needs to do something about their economic development strategy, bringing pollutants and toxins from the diesel fuel, as well as the congestion that is taking place in our city. And that's all I got to say. We got work to do in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speakers, Joyce Jones, Elizabeth Bartos, Reginald Tatum, and Yosina Colbert Bradford.
Hi, my name is Joyce Jones, and I'm in District 3. I just think it's a shame to sit
Mama
up
Jones,
here.
push the microphone closer to you.
Huh?
Push the microphone closer to you.
I just think it's a shame to sit up here and look at you council people to vote on an amendment that would get rid of the city attorney and other members of the council. I mean, of the city council. And I think that to even vote on it. And I think that you all should really do a forensic investigation on you all, because I think that all of you are full of everything. And I just think it's a disgrace to give the mayor so much authority, because he seemed like Donald Trump, just like he is trying to take over the state and want to be on like Putin. That's the way our city mayor. And if we don't look out, we ain't gonna have no city, because the feds gonna come in here and take over. And I hope you all be happy when you all be out of a job. Thank you.
It's okay.
Am I up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Betty Bartos, Short Road, District 4. I got that you don't want to rehash 2019. How about 2018? Hindsight is 2020. Well, it's 2020. So let's look back to 2018 and ask, how could we still have the Bishop Road landfill fire burning? How could this be? From 2018? Well, we do. Now, the Smyrna mayor, for the Sterigenics problem, formed an air quality oversight committee right off to start their air testing, and Cobb County Commission voted right off to spend $40,000 to test their air. Then the city of Atlanta, our sister city, in our county, said they're entering an agreement with them to test their air too, which nearly doubled their test sites. What do we have? Well, we have my husband going over there and taking pictures, and well, we got me studying online what the EPA is supposed to be doing, and I've emailed them 100,000 times. But we got squat, and that landfill fire is still burning. Are you looking at pictures?
Yes.
Okay. Look at the picture we've taken today. Look at the smoke in that picture. And then look back at August's pictures in there too. So you can see nothing's changed. It's been burning like that, and we all smell it. Every day? No, because of wind changes. So sometimes it goes to Tyrone, sometimes Palmetto gets it, and the rest of the time we get it. And you can't even sit on your deck when it's burning. It stinks to high heaven, or to hell, I don't know which. It comes and goes, up and down. Well, the EPA said in this year's thing, cut toxic air pollution. Well, let's get her done. Come on, people. We need money and we need participation.
Good evening, Council, Mayor and Council. My name is Reginald Tatum, and I live at 4930 Mount Calm Drive in the city of South Fulton. I heard Ms. Willis say how tired you all are about this foolishness. But let me tell you how tired we are on my side of the fence. From what I heard tonight, it's shaping up and the tone is being set What happened in 19 going to happen in 20. But let me tell you what's not going to happen on my side. We are not going to continue to tolerate all this ignorant foolishness. We can't do it like that, y'all. We must find a way to work together. Mayor Edwards, you tried to put something before the community Saturday at the swearing in when you asked the council members to join hands. That was a good gesture. There wasn't nothing wrong with that. But some of the council members act like they didn't even want to touch each other. Now, the investigative hearing that was held on the 30th of December was a disgrace. Now we're talking about who gonna fund the money to pay for them attorneys that gobble up all our money. Y'all can't spend our money like that. We don't want our money spent like that. We can't continue to do that. And all this questionable spending, we're gonna have to have some kind of range, somebody overseeing what we're spending our money on. Yes, we want you all to be comfortable when you go out of town. We don't want you to stay in a rundown hotel. We want you to be where you're decent and protected. But be mindful of what you're spending money on. And stay out of some of these stores you ain't got no business in. You need to do that, all right? So what I encourage each and every one of you all to do, please try to work together, because if y'all don't work together, I guarantee you the community is going to work together. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone, council members and mayor. I normally don't do too much speaking, but I like to start off with a quote from Maya Angelou. And it says,
address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yoshina Colbert Bradford, 1760 Loch Lomond Trail, and that's Atlanta, Georgia, 30331. And it says, you may not control all of the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. A lot of you did good in 2019. You did some good acts for your district, but all of that's being overlooked by all of the humiliation and degrading events that we have had in this city. So I say all of that to say, I hope that City of South Fulton is not reduced by those events. And I hope that in 2020, we have a new vision, taking us to a new direction with great leadership. Now, I know all of you all have stepped up to serve, and I appreciate that. And I just hope that all of your actions to serve match your motives. And to end, I would just like to say, when you step up to serve, your first service is to God. Thank you.
Pamela Harris, Jane Williams, Rosie Jackson, and Alicia Fisher.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Pamela Harris. I live in Montclair Estates, District 1. And I'm here to talk about the failure of Georgia Power and AT&T to clear debris from the right-of-way. Sections of utility poles were cut and left in the right-of-way on the corner of Bruce Place and New Hope Road. Trees trimmed today and left in the right-of-way. This requires citizens to walk in the street at a location where there have been several auto accidents in the past few months. I'm asking Councilwoman Rowell if she would visit that location just to see how bad it is. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Jane Williams. I live at 6276 Shenfield Lane, Union City, Georgia, 30291. I am in District 5. I just came tonight to first of all, thank Rosie Jackson for your service, and to congratulate Councilman Reeves on your victory. We are looking forward to your great work. And one for better lighting on Flat Shoals Road, better sidewalks that goes somewhere instead of nowhere. We are looking for the trash at the corner, the trash can at the corner of Flat Shoals Road and Shinfield Lane to be continued emptied and not full. And I hope that we can all work together. And if you're wondering where we can get some of this money from, let's try T-Splosh. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Rosie Jackson. I live at 4365 Melanie Drive in the city of South Fulton, possibly Renaissance, District 5. Congratulations, Corey. I'm on this side of the fence and not on the other. The previous law firm was paid. I came here today because I have some concerns. I did get some phone calls, and I think this is a better suit for me. The previous law firm was paid the same dollar amount of $500,000 per year, and there are 4 things different from the Robbins firm and Fincher Didmark. The previous firm left our city vulnerable to a lawsuit when they opined in 2017 that the mayor could hold 2 positions acting as mayor and city manager. That was in total conflict with our charter. No member of council shall give directions to any employees. Clearly, the mayor was a council member. Charter section 3.28 and 3.12. The previous law firm opined the mayor vetoed a resolution that renamed our city. The mayor can only veto ordinances and resolutions when it has to do with budget line items. The previous law firm gave away our prorated share of $2.7 million without one council member being aware. Dated December 19, 2017, written to the Office of Commissioner of Insurance, and this is public information addressed to Mandy Wilson. And the previous law firm improperly amended our charter removal process by a regular ordinance versus the state requirements to amend the charter. The requirements are public hearings, publications, and timing requirements. Please go back and read where Marietta was actually sued for a mayor becoming the city manager and acting as that. And bottom line, we're still vulnerable and we can be sued. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Elise Fisher. I live at 4852 Lockerbie Drive in District 4. Last January, I was here requesting that you give some attention to the illegal landfill that, as you heard earlier, is still on fire, so I'm not going to go there. Today, I'm not here to talk about that. Instead, I want to make sure you're aware of decisions made recently by our leaders on our fire team that left most of District 4 residents exposed and unprotected. For several days last week, Fire Station number 17 was closed and all personnel were deployed to other stations in our city. I'm told that the station was closed because someone not following proper procedure crashed their one and only firefighting truck into the building, rendering it inoperable for several days. During those days when their one and only fire truck was inoperable, all personnel were deployed to other stations, leaving the community that relies on Fire Station number 17 exposed and unprotected. Last week, the home at 9015 Clerk Road, which is maybe half a mile away from that fire station, burned almost to the ground on one of those days. Fortunately, no life was lost in the more than 20 minutes it took for fully functioning trucks from other stations to arrive on the scene. I'm not going to speculate about why all of this has occurred, but I will say this. You can't effectively manage what's not being tracked and measured. It's time for us to get serious about this notion of openness and transparency. It's time for us to start tracking and measuring things that will provide us true insight into the city's readiness to serve our communities. We need true input and process metrics, not just lagging indicators like response time. And we need a more comprehensive, more complete scorecard that provides insights into how well the city is doing at meeting the needs of its constituents. Thank you for your time.
That ends public comments. Next is council comments.
What'd you say?
That ends the the public comments form. Next is council comments.
I will. I'll get it. Let's do the comments now. Make a
motion. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to forego council comments. To make a motion to forego council comments.
Would you allow, I think that Mr. Broom can come up and tell us about the...
Yeah, that's definitely from council comments.
All right. So if it's okay with you all, I would like to bring Mr. Broom up so we can talk about Fire Station 17. Mr. T. Broom? No, we just bought we did not know that the fire station was closed. And so we just want to find out what happened. Yeah.
We did have an incident where one of the trucks was damaged, but the fire station was never closed. What happened is that it was taken out of service, and we had another truck, one of our ladder trucks, that we actually was having ladder tested. So for a few hours, we didn't have a truck there, but for the end of the day, we had another truck there to provide that service. So the station was never closed.
Who answered the call during that day that she talked about? Who answered the call? What fire station?
I'll have to look into that and look at the reports and see who answered that call. But from my understanding, the station was never closed.
Mr. Manager, I think that it would be behooving on us, and especially since it's in Ms. Gilliard's district, that there should have been some type of notice or some email sent, to us to let us know that that was out of service. It's bad to hear it on a meeting night,
I have a question. So a home burned down on Clark Road during this incident with the trucks?
I'm not aware of that. I will have to check into that. I wasn't aware that we had a house fire where it burned down due to the trucks. I do know that a truck does go out of service, and when it does go out of service, we make sure that there's adequate protection.
Right.
So it wasn't out of service long enough for me to say it's time for us to notify everyone, because it happens a lot when our trucks go out of service for maintenance and things. So the truck was out of service for a few hours, but it wasn't out of service long enough to notify the whole community, because it happens all the time. I will check into to see what fires they're referencing and see if there was a correlation between when the truck was out of service. But I do know that there was a truck that was sent over there to provide protection and coverage.
So let me know about the fire. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Next item on the agenda is the CFO's November 2019 financial report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is our 2019 November financial report. I just wanted to mention it publicly here that these financial reports are presented every month. So we have financial reports every month that are presented. There have been a lot of people that have been asking that we don't provide them the budget versus actual or where we stand. We present every month. Unfortunately, they have never been put online, so this week we have asked our communication department that will be putting online on the finance department from last year for the whole year. So we'll be having them. Those that will miss here will have them, but should you not find them, please feel free to ask. We have them. We present every month. So in November, remember November is the second month of our fiscal year. Our fiscal year starts in October through September the following year. So October we presented, and this is the second month of our fiscal year in November. And here is showing that our general fund in our second month, we ended up with more revenue, like more than expenses. So at the end of November, we had about $25 million in excess of the expenses that we had. And to date, general fund has we received $32 million, and the majority of that $32 million was the money that came from tax. As you know, that we receive most of our taxes the first 3 months of the fiscal year. So it's October, November, December. The majority of that comes in October. And we had only spent about $7 million. We received 32, and we spent $7 million for the 2 months. That's October and November. The state collected 44% of its budgeted revenue. As I said, the majority of that one is tax. And the expenses were only about 7%. So you will see here our revenues. We had collected already out of the $31 million that we budgeted, we had already collected the $21 million in the taxes. And at the end of it, we collected $32 million, and our expenses are $7 million. So we ended up with $25 million by the close of November. Still, the same property tax constitute about 65% of our total budget. And our taxes outpaced monthly about $3 million. And we received our lost revenue, which is 27% of the general fund. And we received more than what we budgeted, about $218,000. Insurance premiums, we budgeted for $5 million. And likely enough, we received the extra $2 million more than what we budgeted. So we budgeted for $5 million, but we received $7 million. That will help us to cover some shortfalls in some areas where we'll get less than what we anticipated. This is the summary of our revenues again. We have general property tax. This is just in percentage of what I've already said, but just what percentage is it constituted by property tax, franchise fees. But at the end of it, we have $32 million that we received by November. This is just a breakdown. As you know, that property tax is the biggest, so we budgeted for 31, and we received $21 million. Then we have local option sales taxes, budgeted at 25. We had received $4.5 million for 2 months. We received that 1 month in arrear. So what we received here for the 4.5, one of that one was for the previous month. That would be September and October. November we had not yet received. So for the new fiscal year, that means it was only for 1 month. And here is the breakdown of general fund. We have $32 million, and these are from other funds, for a total of $33 million revenue at the end of September. Now get to expenses. Expenses for 2019, end of November, we had just spent about 10% of our total budget. All departments spent within their budget or less than their budget. We have put in place various ways of how we can minimize our expenses. Some of those ones would be to defer some of the capital acquisition without compromising the services. Also defer or delay some hiring. We have hiring freeze almost up to mid-year, so that we hire only where the city manager deemed it necessary, working with the department. That has worked well. Last year it helped us, and this year it's working. So you will see those expenses, they will go, but we try to minimize so that we spend it evenly during the course of the fiscal year. And this is the summary of expenses with the districts and the departments. So we had spent only $7.2 million as our total expenses for 2 months. You'll find out that every month, if we divide it, 100 divided by 12, we are supposed to spend about 8%. So it would have been in 16%, but most of them we have spent about 12%, 9%. It's not that we are squeezing too much, but all the necessary services are provided. Wherever we can save, we do save, but we'll finish everything by the end of the fiscal year. Again, this is expenses. Our biggest expenditure is on the personnel. So out of our 100+ expenditure budget, we have $43 million that's in personnel. And we have out of that 43, we just spent $4.4 million in 2 months. And then we have operations, that's $29 million. In 2 months, we spent only $2.8 million. Again, this is, you see where we spend more. The blue one is personnel. Then we have contracted services, and also we have loans, which by November we still had nothing, so it's almost zero. Expenses overall, the general fund balance expanded approximately by 10%. Other expenses were within, as you see that some funds, you have revenues equal to expenses. So they spent within, that comprised of capital and solid waste activities. This is the summary of the general fund. On the expenditure side, we spent $72 million. On the revenue side, we received $32 million. And these other funds we have from E911 restricted funds, which is grants, capital projects. At the end of it, we spent $9 million. This is the summary of our November financial report. Again, we provide financial reports every month. If you don't have, please do ask, and we will be putting them online so that you see, but we put them, we bring them and present them. They are on the agenda every month. I will entertain questions and comments.
Mr. Khalid was on cue.
I'll let the gentle lady from...
You let the what?
Well, you know what? No, I'll go ahead and start. I was trying to text something, but I'll just tell you since I got the mic. Mr. Adams, we had a request from Councilwoman Gilliard if we could turn the air down a little bit up here. I'm sorry, let me just pull up these notes. Well, you know what? I'll start with our constituents first. That's how I should start anyway. Ms. Bartos in District 4. You still there? Hey, how you doing? And everyone else who talked about that fire, yeah, that's ridiculous. I didn't know that it was still on fire. I actually just had a conversation about that with someone today. And it sounds like my aide got from Ms. Bartos that Smyrna originally allocated $40,000 for the study, and they have now spent up to $500,000 trying to put their fire out. So, you know, what I would like to make a motion, because I would like to make a motion to direct our CFO and our city manager to work together to see if we can find $100,000 to start that study and start that process, because we shouldn't be waiting on everybody else. So we're already on that?
It's already in the budget.
Okay, awesome. And hopefully we won't even have to find any more money for it, because it looks like we needed money for some other things earlier, and I see that our revenues went up, so hopefully they'll keep trending beyond projection and we won't have to make any unnecessary cuts. That's all I have, thanks.
Okay, Ms. Guns?
Mr. Malazzi, quick question. Are these expenses you're saying being reported online, is it being done through OpenGov?
We will be putting both of them on OpenGov at the same. We have been having some problems with OpenGov, hopefully, because it's not only finances. We started with OpenGov for finances. With the incoming of the city manager, said it will be comprehensive, it will be everything. So it's not just on this part, but I think we are working on it, and
yeah, so this month, I've actually met with the president of OpenGov. We have a conversation on the 15th of every month for a status update. We had some challenges because of Edmonds last year, but they've actually made some fixes specifically for our city, so there should be no reason whatsoever that we are not reporting effective the end of this month. And so we will have to update all of our old information manually, of course, but moving forward with their fix, we should be able to identify all of those things in February, and there is no reason why our residents, council, and anybody else should not be able to look at our finances on OpenGov beginning February.
Okay, so just to reiterate, moving forward, we should be able in real time to see these expenses in February.
I was looking for our IT director. I think he is working again on the other alternatives. Should it be still OpenGov, but he has got some alternatives that he's working on.
Well, all systems are talking to one another.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So we should have, even if it's not OpenGov, they will be on the finance website that the communication team will be putting them on this week.
I believe we're going into year 2 regarding OpenGov, so it will be really very helpful for residents to be able to access this information.
Mm-hmm.
So I will encourage you all to get this up and running. So that will probably eliminate some of the open records requests and all the things that are coming forth. So it's just behoove you all to just move this thing forward. And secondly, where's the money that I believe the state allocated to help the landfill? Wasn't that like $500,000?
There's 150
from
what this
State Rep Bazemore?
I would defer to her to respond it.
Can you respond?
The state never gave us any. The state never gave us any money. The state said that they were going to, and they never. What the state really did was to turn around and file a lawsuit for $1 million on the owner of the facility. So that $500,000 is floating in the atmosphere. But we do have money in the budget for independent testing, and we are going to do that this year.
Okay, are we able to follow up with them just to find out? I mean, they made a commitment. I think I saw a letter that said that they were going to give $500,000. So is there any way that we can reach out to the state reps and find out?
They're not answering anybody.
Okay.
EPD did give designators considerable, not enough, but a good amount of money, over $100,000 to put towards the landfill. But it was on the condition that the EPD and its contractors would be able to go onto the property and do it themselves. They have a ongoing proceeding with the Fulton County Superior Court against this landowner. And unfortunately, when they went to that proceeding and they asked the judge for the ability to remediate themselves, the judge denied that request and said that she would give the owner additional opportunities to remediate. Is probably most people who have passed the landfill know the owner is not compliant with the state, and it's my understanding we received an update within the last 10 days from the state stating that they have filed a motion for contempt and that they are going back to the Superior Court and asking the Superior Court to hold him in contempt and to allow them to do on their end actions to remediate. I don't think a hearing's been set yet, but there should be a hearing in the near future.
So in the meantime, we're just waiting for a hearing. It's nothing that we can do?
And people are breathing all of that.
So it's nothing that we could do financially, anything to put this fire out at this point in time?
So right now, the Superior Court has ordered that even the state of Georgia can't put the fire out. So we could join the proceeding and ask her if we can do it, but I think with her not even allowing the state of Georgia to do it, and they've told her that they've allocated money to do this, I just think that it would be
Are we able to join forces? Because it looks like they're able to get some synergy up in Cobb County. Are we able to join forces with anything?
So I've gone to the proceedings, the fire department's gone to the proceedings, they've testified. The judge is the state of Georgia is leading the case, so there's only so much that we can do because they are lead counsel and they are arguing the issues and arguing this before the Superior Court. Unfortunately, we were disappointed as the state of Georgia was, and I was sitting in the hearing when the judge denied their request to use their own funding to remediate. Everyone in the courtroom we didn't know. So we weren't happy with that decision, but we can look into avenues to where we can do anything, but I do think it's going to be difficult given the complexity of having a court order, saying that he is allowed to attempt to remediate.
So let me add to this. The attorney asked EPD to do additional testing. They refused. And this is, I can't even count the number of court orders asking the owner to come into compliance. And then to complicate it, yeah, and he's been to jail as well. So to complicate all of this, the state of Georgia regulates landfills. The city does not. And EPA gives them the ability to regulate. So if they are not going to regulate properly, then EPA, to me, should be responding, which they are not. So it's been more than a year, as all of us know. Even me, even though I'm 3 miles away, I'm still breathing some of it. But we've been in this perpetual circle for over a year that seems to be going nowhere. But with the money that we do have, we are going to do our independent testing so that we can determine exactly what is in the air. And then once we have that, then we'll go to the next stage. And that's going to happen soon.
Madam Attorney, I do want to ask for EPA in the Region 4 that will come down to the EPD, because it has been over a year and because of the serious nature of the air quality, that see if they can deem that a Superfund site or a Brownsville site. I know it has something to do with the hazardous toxicity that's in the air, so to see if they have designated money for that. So I would encourage y'all to look into that as well, because it's been an ongoing problem, and I think it's unfair to the residents.
So we did actually press them to declare this a Superfund site. And their response was, they said, okay, we'll get people out to do soil and air sampling and we'll see if it meets the Superfund criteria. And their response back to us was that the contaminants they would cause irritation, but it didn't rise to the level to where it would qualify for Superfund use.
And that's when we're going to do our own testing.
Yes, and I would recommend us do our own testing.
Yeah, and and Councilwoman Gilliard did secure, and the council approved funding for the city to do its own testing.
Okay. We're paying for the money we have, but who are we hiring to do the testing?
We need 3 votes.
Okay, all right. So we need 3 votes. Is that what we're doing?
So the community has to bring 3 quotes. Ooh, I'm asking, okay. Oh, so we're in the procurement process of getting that done. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malazzi. No, ma'am. No. I love you. Okay, ma'am, I'd love to hear from you, but can you not? Okay. All right. Okay, I got you. We hear you. We hear you. Okay, Madam Clerk. Thank you so much. Okay.
Item is number 29, Council's first reading of FY20 budget amendment.
Is that you again?
So this is the first reading. We have two items for the budget amendment. One is, as most of you know, there have been a change for District 5. So 25% has been spent in the 3 months. Then we are making it a whole to make it 75% for the remaining period of the fiscal year for District 5. That's one budget amendment. The second budget amendment is for fire department to acquire the tools that they will need to put in the breathing machine, to put in the new 2 engines that you approved in 2017. So the engines, I think they are in or they will be coming, Chief?
26th of January.
26. So they will be coming and they will need those apparatus inside those trucks. So we got the funding within. We are not borrowing from outside.
All right. Any questions of Mr. Malazi? Ms. Rowell?
Do we have, just for the future, what kind of ticklers do we have in place where that, you know, we're trending versus where we are in the year for what's budgeted? Because, you see what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, so if you see there is a budgeted versus expenditure.
Right.
So we see how much money has come in and how much money we have spent and where are we. You'll find out that I've just said that we are funding from within this 380,000 for fire. We didn't borrow it out because we received money for insurance premiums, $7 million. So instead of us borrowing 300,000, it's not worth it if we have additional money to borrow, if we have money to spend within, because any amount we borrow, it's showing up on the debt that we have borrowed 300.
Let me ask my question differently for clarity. I think you may have misunderstood. I'm good on the fire. I understand that. I'm talking about the district expenditures. How do we make sure that we are relative to where we are? So if we are a quarter way in the year that was budgeted, that we're trending in that direction and not front loading our expenses.
So yeah,
expenditures.
That's a very good one. Every district, every department, we say how much. There will be some other things that you can't say 8% every month, because there are some things that you may buy in advance. Some they will buy stationary way at the beginning. Some contracts are done now, some contracts are deferred. So we see what we are buying and how we are spending other than personnel. But in District 5 is something that was different. One, there were things that District 5, they planned they were going to do or they have been doing in past, going to the conference. So there was no way out finance. Either the city manager would say, you can't spend this, being our first time. Now we have to put in place where we'll come to you to say, should someone leave, what do you do? How do you limit it? But there was nothing in place. I couldn't, he couldn't, and we didn't get directives from you.
Okay. Yeah, please put something in place relative to that for going forward.
We will.
I just wanted to understand what you were going on.
Okay, we'll go to Ms. Willis, then we'll hear Mr. Reeves.
So to be specific, for District 5, their budget amendment is asking to replenish 75% of the budget that was spent.
To make it to 75, because some line items were spent, but for him to finish the end of the fiscal year, he will need 75%.
So $48,700. That's specific, right?
That's correct.
$48,700 was spent. Okay, so
that's from different. It's not only.
So as of October 1st, each council member had a budget of $65,000, each council member, okay? And so as of today, in District 5, of that $65,000, $48,000 has been spent. So within 2 months, $48,000 has been spent.
3 months.
3 months. So the budget amendment is to replenish that money.
To make
and
it
I am going to
75.
support my colleague, Councilmember Reeves, because he does not deserve to have an adverse action against him as an incoming council member. But we do need to have some type of accounting for where that $48,000 went. Because what we're essentially asking to do is to replenish $48,000 that was spent within 3 months. So that's going to be over $90,000 allocated to District 5. So all I'm saying is I support the budget amendment, because it's not fair that Councilmember Reeves is coming in with $17,000 left in his budget, but we need to make sure we know where that money went.
We're going to have Mr. Reeves and Mr. Khalid.
And in other words, Mr. Malazi, you know, I do understand that, and there was no processes or procedures in place, but I was a fiduciary agent of the constituents who will be asking. I will just humbly ask if there can be an audit or a forensic audit of some sort that you can know that will be made out there for the city and for the constituents.
So yesterday, what I did was to give you, the mayor and the council members, I think the mayor asked for it. So you have the report that gives every district what you have spent. And this one includes from October through December. So District 5, you will see what were spent, and if there were some other illegal issues that you felt like they were not part of that, those I think we can discuss.
What the legalities, that's for council the legal council to decide.
Okay.
I just want our constituents to know, and in all fairness, for everybody, and to go to Councilwoman Gumbs, could you make that available on OpenGov?
That report you have, everything will be on our website. That's
Okay,
the report you have.
Right.
Yeah.
So if a constituent asks where they spend, I can direct them to OpenGov and they can see it for themselves, correct?
OpenGov may take some time before it's fixed, but it will be on our website. It will be on, go to finance before the end of the week unless communication changes, but that is a promise they made.
Thank
so
you,
you
sir.
have the report. But if you need other additional information, feel free, I'll give you.
No, I'm good with what you provide. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks.
I'm so glad that we have another chance, another opportunity to move forward. And so, again tonight. And so I think we're all in agreement that, you know, this money should definitely be restored because, you know, we have these budgets that are $65,000. And despite what people may think about them, it's actually the most direct way to give our money back to our own constituents, right? So we're spending the money on our constituents. If they need more newsletters, if they want more maps, if they want to have, you know, more educational programming, whatever they want to have, it's the best. You can ask me for it, and I can get it for my constituents, and like I don't need to like have a vote or do a resolution or anything like that. So, in the spirit of working together as a team, I definitely want to make sure that you have all the resources at your disposal to satisfy the constituents who voted for you. You're welcome. I do want to say the amendment that we have, I think it's like 28, I don't know what number it is now, but the amendment for the Blighted Property Fund is not, that's not my amendment, so I just don't want my name to be on it. That is a staff-led thing, but I yield to the wisdom of our staff. If we do that amendment, or if we do this change, like moving it to the general fund from the, you know, the way that we had it set up originally, will that require another budget amendment at the next meeting?
Is it another item coming up? Is it
the blighted property ordinance amendment that you have? It's in our agenda tonight, and I'm asking, in order to make the changes that you're suggesting, will that require
we will
another
make
budget
another
amendment?
budget amendment. Okay. I discussed with the city manager. So there was an ordinance that was passed. that ordinance was complicated. It wouldn't have worked. So you are reversing that ordinance with this one.
No, I got it. I just wanted to be clear that there will be another budget amendment
There
coming
will
back.
be,
So got
because
it.
we can't go with budget amendment without reversing that.
Awesome.
So yes, it will be.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Raza.
When we do bring that back with that budget modification, can we be specific about what properties we're talking about demolishing?
So I think that
I know
one.
we have a list, so that we're.
We have a list. Director Reed, I think, has been working with. Yeah. So you have the list.
It would, yeah, but it would not be in the amendment. So the amendment would just be making the fund whole and in compliance with the law. So I think what Mr. Malazi was referring to, currently you have a law on the books. Let's say it allocates 50,000 towards it because that's the percentage. Well, the request and intent of council is to make it 200,000. Well, he can't legally put the 200,000 in the account when the law only allows for 50,000 or that percentage to go in. And so when it's corrected, when the law is adjusted, he will then adjust the budget to allow for that. Then separately on the program side, they would go forward with demolishing or doing whatever, and you would get a report of that before.
Right, I'm just saying, I would like us. Again, I think it was a list that was compiled that had blighted properties all across this city, and just to make sure you bring something that represents addressing that across the city in an equitable way, so that we can begin to take a look.
Yes, ma'am, we're on the same page.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malazi. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Clerk, just.
Next item is the city manager's FY19 impact report and transmittal letter, and the November 2019 city manager's report.
Before you go, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Khalid, did you want
Oh yeah, I just want to respond to Dr. Rowell. That's actually, we've been working on this for months, and that's something that Ms. Reed and I have been talking about, is making sure that it's equitably spread across the entire city. So from the very beginning, that's what we've been working on.
All right, go ahead.
So I will be very brief. Just wanted to highlight a couple of things. So I think you noticed it in the CFO's report, and you'll notice it in mine as well. We're transmitting the November information because we report on a month before and we didn't have the regular council meeting. And so at the end of the month is when you'll get the December information. The council has asked, and I'll make sure to highlight this for the public, is that these financial and programmatic reports are on the website, and many of the questions that we receive and some of the information you want is included in very quality detail to be used not only by our council but also by our public. And so I won't go into great detail in the city manager's report, but it is 100 pages that covers every single aspect of the city of South Fulton's activity, and it allows you direct access to individual projects and things of that nature. And so those reports can be found under the city manager's page. They're downloadable, and they go all the way back, I believe, until I think I started in March, and we started producing them in April of 2018. And so you'll see how our staff reporting and everything else has grown during that time, and you can get pretty much all of the information that you're looking for up to the minute. In addition to that, now that we have closed out FY19, I have provided an unsolicited report, which we're calling the 2019 Impact Report. In effect, it is an annual report of all of the activities of the city of South Fulton. And so while you have a 100-page report, a 100-page or more report that you get every month on all of the activities of the city that include financial in one easy place for you to receive that information, the Impact Report is simply a highlighted summary of all of the activities of the cities, of the city, which represents the different successes and outcomes, and it is a direct return on investment number. And so whether you want to know about how we spent, how we produced, what services we delivered, and what it cost you, it's included in this report. So we'll go through it very quickly, but the first thing I'll do is just highlight some very key outcomes for people to know that you received. So we had a reduction in violent crime that I believe was over 10%, upgrades to park and recreation facilities, the creation of a separate economic development and tourism board, underspent our budget by more than $10 million. We also increased our revenues from the beginning of the city by more than 68%. We doubled the size of our police force, getting us to about 170 sworn officers and even more civilians. We created 3 mini precincts, renovated 2 fire stations. One of those now serves as a fire station and police mini precinct. You can stay at the beginning, Mr. Adams, because I'm going to take them through that. And 22,000 hours of training to police. I think that was directly requested by Mr. Khalid, Mr. Baker, and Councilmember Gums as a part of professional development for our police. Also 8,800 training hours for our fire personnel. And as mentioned before, created the South Fulton Development Authority and the South Fulton Convention and Visitors Bureau. And so just going through the report so you can see it visually and follow some of those activities. You can go through it, Mr. Adams. So, of course, quick table of contents that show you where all the information is, a breakdown, next slide, of just what our fiscal operations are, just explaining how they work very briefly so you'll understand how we operate, next slide, and a breakdown of what our revenues are, so how much did we bring in versus, next slide, our expenditures. And what you'll see if you go back, Mr. Adams, you'll see that our revenues, and then go back to our expenses, there's a big difference of a little bit more than $10 million. So what that means is everybody is worried about the deficit, and is the city appropriately making moves to lower that deficit and ensure our sovereignty and stability and sustainability. And so we are doing a quality job of that. That's the second consecutive year, I think, Mr. Malazi, that we've underspent our budget by at least 10%. And so what that means is every year we're chopping into that budget, and we had a 5-year plan to get into the black, but we should be able to do it in 3. And so there's been a lot of misconception about that, but we're very much on pace to bring the city into the black. You can go to the next slide. And so these are just very quick highlights that gives you key stats on what the impact of your dollars are. And so you can look at everything from training dollars, number of citations for police, next slide, what type of increase in performance, keep going. Same thing for fire, next slide. Municipal courts, you can see how many cases, you can go back to that one, how many cases we've had, as well as the revenue that they brought in. Next slide. There's also the number of activities, as well as the fire stations that were renovated that I mentioned. Keep going. We won't spend a ton of time on these. You can go to the next one, because I would just highlight your customer service center that we have. We'll now be launching 311 next month, but we've already been operating a 311. But effective next month, you'll be able to call in the 311 from your cell phone or your home and be able to reach our customer 24/7 customer service center. And so only us and Sandy Springs operate a 24/7 call center, and ours actually has a 311 number. And so it makes it very easy for everyone. Next. And so when we look at the quality of life, it just breaks down all the departments that touch your quality of life, ranging from your parks and recs to public works and everything else. And so you can look at the $14 million that we received in T-SPLOST to implement these new paving projects. You've got new lights coming up, roundabouts, and all types of activities. But you also have over about 5 tons of trash that has been picked up, so far. And so that is telling you that while there's a lot of questions about the response, we actually are picking up the trash. We've got to do better in getting people to not dump it in the ways that they are and ruining our community. Next slide. And so the same thing with economic development. the number of permits that we had, how many planning and zoning applications, all of those activities are at your fingertips. Same for Parks and Rec. You can see how many people we've served without having Parks and Rec for a full year. We served over 22,000 people, which is quite a bit. You can go to the next slide. You can go to the next one as well. And so there's just a couple of other quick facts that tell you how smart our folks are. We've got almost 75% of our residents are homeowners. We've got the least amount of renters by far in the metro. Again, the 24/7 call center. Next slide. You talk about how many people have an high school education as it compares to other places, including Atlanta, who we're beating to death on those type of activities. You can keep going. I mean, I think that's it, and then we highlight the staff. The only reason that municipal courts is not identified here is because they have a solo impact report that they will be presenting beginning at the next board meeting. And then police will also be doing an annual report that dives much deeper than this. And so just wanted to highlight that, as well as some of the great successes from the city. And then I'll just kind of close out that to meet the requirements of our council as we move into calendar year 2020, even though FY 2020 is not over, we're just looking at 4 service areas: customer service, public safety, implementing capital projects, and increasing operational efficiency. So we have a secret shopper program that has been going on that we'll be releasing to the mayor and council, also unsolicited, so you can see how we're doing customer service wise. I talked about the 311 go live date, which again will cost the city only $2,000 because we already are operating our center. And we are looking at some smart city solutions that include the Internet of Things, customer service, and public safety. And we've already made traction in lowering our ISO. And finally, the reason you will see a big difference in transportation in calendar year 2020 than you saw in our initial partial year is because the city has also gained its LAP certification, which means for the first time we can implement federal and state projects. Many of those things didn't happen because we were so new we didn't qualify for LAP certification. Now that we do, we can implement those projects that have been on hold. And so that concludes my report. Ms. Gary.
I have a lot of questions, but I'll ask those later in the interest of time because we're really running out of time. But I want to ask Ms. Reed a question. I know she has to leave, and it's about the moratorium. I do know that there were, at one point, there were a couple of resolutions or either ordinances floating around. One you had prepared, one Councilman Khalid had prepared, and from what I understand, they were merged and put together. So I did not know that the outcome of that was a moratorium for land use permits. And it says, or occupation tax, da, 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 da. So because of that, because there's a moratorium on that, I have 28 projects on hold. District 2 has 24. I'm sorry, District 3 has 24 and District 2 has 22. So that's really, really impacting us. I don't know what we do about it, but we really need to do something. I would like to know what those 28 are that are on hold. So somehow we've got to fix this.
So that count that you're seeing is in reference to if there's a call, if there's someone coming to the counter, if there's a question that's relative to a zoning item. Okay. One way or another, the use has been asked about. So we're keeping record of that to let you know that instead of us moving forward with any permitting options or application options, we're keeping records just to kind of keep account so that we can know the impact that it does have. Going back to the item, we brought this moratorium before you all a couple of times. It was at least 3 when we were, before it was adopted, because at first it came about as Councilman Khalid's item, and then it came as mine, and then we worked together to decide to bring it and merge it together. As mentioned, the reasoning behind it was to allow for the other moratoriums to end and allow for us to continue on, allowing the operations of the city to continue while the zoning ordinance is being worked out.
So this is in place until June.
Correct.
So that's kind of long. And one of my 2 concerns is that I know that there's a fairly new project that I met with the developers about a couple of weeks ago. And then there's one that's been in the pipeline for a couple of months. And so they probably got in front of this one, but still, I just need to have a meeting with you and Miss Melanie, so we can talk about this, and probably the attorney. So let's just schedule some time for the four of us to meet.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
And congratulations.
We'll move on.
Ms. Reed, does this moratorium affect people who have business licenses and have to renew their business license during this
No,
month? It does not?
this is all for new items coming in the door. So if you're renewing something, it would not be affected to that.
Good deal.
Yes.
But it's business licenses for specific business only.
Okay, let's. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Clerk?
Wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, that was just one item on the city manager's report.
I said, okay, go ahead.
And I'm sorry, I've been in the queue.
With you.
Yeah, thank you. Because I think that brought up a good point. The unifying, we had like these disparate, disagreeing moratoriums, and so we were trying to unify it for litigative purposes. We were trying to protect ourselves from litigation, but one of the reasons that it went till June was because we were still waiting to get our zoning moratorium. I mean, our zoning study back. And then we also are waiting to get our economic development study back. And so I'm wondering around what month will we start getting that? Because I know it's going to take a couple of months to go through both of those.
Both of those, actually per your request, both will be on the work session, or scheduled for the work session on the 28th, the next regular scheduled council meeting.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I know there was like some conversation, was it going to be January, was it going to be February?
Yeah, they both will be on at the same time. They've actually met, coordinated with each other, and prepared to present on the same day.
And will we get those reports before the 28th?
Yes, so as we've been doing since the suggestion was made, first we will, of course, submit to consideration to the mayor, I think a week and a half before, and then we will present whatever was provided to the council.
Gotcha. Real quick, before you leave, Ms. Reed, just one real quick question. The 28 things, because the moratorium I thought had a list of things. So if someone wants to build like a Whole Foods, they can get a permit. This is for like barbershops and the things that are listed. Okay, last thing. Thank you. Last thing, Mr. City Manager. We were originally projected to be in our new courtroom and police facility in April. Where are we with that? And also, do we have an alternative for court? Because I think we're meeting in like 2 different places now.
Yes, so we actually, the MOU will come before you. So we've always met in multiple places, but our agreement with Union City has expired, but we've actually partnered with another municipality, since it does involve some type of negotiation and coordination. I'd rather discuss it later in executive session, but we have an agreement. We are good, and we'll have an up to a year agreement with that municipality, be a little bit closer and more consistent, and it will only be for 1 day a week. The remainder of court would remain at the the place next door, community court. So we're on track.
And so are we on track to move in April?
Not in April. So
okay,
I've actually provided a report on that. We're probably about a quarter behind schedule. The white box is on time, but our initial renderings for the remodel were quite more expensive than we had actually allocated budget-wise, and so we're bringing those costs down, and we'll be bringing it. I don't think we'll need to bring it back before the council, but we will bring you back an update within about the next 30 days.
Because we've already started paying for the space, is that right?
No,
So we don't pay until move-in?
No, until they deliver the white box, which won't happen until at least another month.
Right. So what I'm saying is like we'll start paying before we.
It shouldn't be, not until it's the white box. So y'all shouldn't have provided.
Okay.
You
So it sounds like it's some disagreement. I just want to ask.
Not even disagreement.
Okay. I just want to say, if we are going to be behind schedule, I know that. I mean, I don't know about this level of construction. I know if I'm building a house and they're behind, like, we get a little back. So
We get what now?
We get a little back. Do we get anything back?
You
We're just
don't get it back
paying
in
the money
house
out.
either. No, you don't get any back, but you would be paying the rent on your lease at the appropriate time regardless. What ends up happening is you just don't get to occupy, and so those costs that you would have been alleviating, you wouldn't. And so we do have some recommendations and things that we'll be implementing to cut costs there. I think you know what we're doing with the Public Works building and pushing people into new offices and things there, and so we've already got those things on track.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Next item is approval of the consent agenda items number 14, number 15, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23.
I'll entertain a motion. Properly moved in second discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes.
Next item is council acceptance of Fulton County Board of Elections certified election results from November 5th, 2015 elections.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept Fulton County. I make a motion that we accept Fulton County's election results from November the 5th, 2019.
Properly moved in second in discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes, Madam Clerk.
The next item is council nomination and approval of election of Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll entertain some nomination.
I'd like to nominate Councilwoman Naima Gilliard.
Councilwoman who? Who'd you say?
Councilwoman Gilliard.
Okay.
Second.
Do I have anybody else? Do we have Councilwoman Gum, Councilwoman Willis, or Ms. Willis? Gums and Gums and Ms. Gilliard. Let's take Ms. Gilliard first. All in favor? For Ms. Gilliard. That fails for lack of 4 votes. All in favor of Councilwoman Guns? Congratulations, Councilwoman Guns, being Mayor Pro Tem. Next item.
Could I have a point of personal privilege? Ms. Mayor? Could I have a point?
What's your name?
Could I have a point of personal privilege just for a second? I've been in the position for 2 years. I just want to say thank you to the council for allowing me to serve in that position. I really, really appreciate it, Councilwoman Gums. Good luck moving forward. And I want to say to the public that being in that position for 2 years gave me a lot of respect for what our mayor has to do when it comes to our meeting and governing everything. So I would also like to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your demonstration of patience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Next item is council approval of a resolution designating the legal organ of the city as the South Fulton Neighbor News with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and/or the Daily Report to be used in a time-sensitive matters.
I'll entertain a motion. Yes. Why?
I didn't have the opportunity to go through this. I would like, if you'd allow, to just table this until the next meeting. Put it on the very next agenda. It would come back within days.
Go ahead.
statutory requirements as far as their circulation dates, et cetera. So I'll have that answer to that question when I bring it back.
Madam Clerk, is there any issue if they?
No, but we haven't been doing the Atlanta Voice. We've been doing the daily report. And the reason why is the legal organ, the last time it was voted on, and the daily report is not accessible to everybody, and it's online more so than a paper, but we can discuss it with the city attorney.
Yeah, just please, because I originally,
We can hold it if you like.
well, I mean, I think the attorney is suggesting that. I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure we had said the Atlanta Voice, and so if we're doing something different, if y'all can just figure it out.
Well, she's suggesting it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put a motion on the floor to hold it.
I make a motion to hold this.
You don't need a,
Properly.
I'm sorry.
Probably moving second one
Never mind.
discussion. Would you like to say something, Madam Clerk?
no.
Okay. All those in favor? That we'll hold that to the next meeting, Madam Attorney. Next.
Thank you.
Council, first reading of a code enforcement ordinance amendment.
Ms. Khalid.
Oh, yeah. So one, this isn't my amendment, so we need to remove my name from it, but it's also a first read, so I don't really think we need to go into it.
Okay.
So Madam Clerk, did you get that noted that to take the sponsorship off? That was inadvertent? I did. Okay, thank you.
The next item is council approval of first reading to amend the business license ordinance.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Council approval of first reading of amending administration ordinance.
Can I have a discussion on this too?
Just a quick. Go ahead.
I recalled when this was first brought to us, it was a while ago, and I think some of these definitions we had got agreement on. In fact, I think Councilwoman Gilliard and maybe Councilman Khalid looked at town hall meetings and some of the other things that I think we had got the consensus, and I don't think they've been updated in this one. So, Attorney Walker, if you could look at that.
Okay.
That would be helpful, so we're not in conflict, because you know this is dated prior to us having the prior conversation. That would
Okay.
Okay.
Councilwoman Rowell, I have a friendly amendment to that, if you don't mind, to your ordinance. On page number 4, under 2, subsection B, on the vacating council member offices, I ask that the last of the sentence read after cost, add this sentence is, vacating council members shall not exceed 25% of current budget. Okay, thank you.
And I have something. This one is, I think this might be the third version of the administrative ordinance, and this one is different from the other two. And if they are voted on and approved, it will knock out one that that I submitted that was voted on, that specifically talks about council meetings and how that occurs. So this one says that every meeting is a town hall meeting, actually, because it says that town hall meetings are a meeting which is called by the mayor, that's number 1, or a member of council, other than a regular or special meeting of the city council. So that means if I want to have a meeting in my district and it is an event like a community day, or it's a health fair or whatever, that's a town hall meeting, because everything is a town hall meeting. So that doesn't make sense to me. Okay? And I'm not finished. And the other part of it is that city funds are being provided. So I don't know why that's such a big difference. That's number 1. But now when we move down, here it becomes, and it sort of makes me think about the strong mayor's model of a city where everybody in the city reports to the mayor, the council, all the staff, everybody. So this part says, the names of the mayor and council members shall be listed on all publications, everything, and advertisements relative to affairs, events, programs, or activities financial in whole or in part by city funds. So if I want to have a cleanup, my picture's on it, and I got 10 residents, mayor's got to be on it, even though he has nothing to do with it. If I have a community event and we have a party, the mayor has to be on it, even though he has nothing to do with it. So I don't really understand this. The language is specific, extremely specific. I take issue with it, and I also take issue with it because over here, not in this book and not tonight, is one that we already passed when the first one came out that wasn't as definitive as this one that says a district meeting is different than a town hall meeting. So everything to me is not a town hall meeting. So I think that this needs to be looked at more carefully.
That's exactly what I said when I opened up the comments, that when we first started this was before your resolution, and I did not know when this was coming back, and I thought it had been updated. So that's when I asked Attorney Walker to look at the ordinance that you and Mr. Councilman Khalid sponsored, because I know we had worked through that. So this predated. So if you could speak to that, Ms. Walker, that we had already done that. I didn't know that that language was not incorporated. So that I don't have an issue with that.
So this one is pretty old. It was put on hold for a while, so I think we just need to reconcile.
Right.
So if I could meet with, if I could take time to table this, so I could meet with Councilman Rowell, as well as the concerns of Councilman Reeves and then Councilwoman Gilliard, and we'll bring this back to where it addresses everyone's concerns.
Yeah, trust me, I'm fine with the definition, because we took a while to work through hers, and I think we got to agreement. I just think this version didn't get updated, or you can even take that section out, and that means hers would stand.
Well, that's what I was going to shoot you an email asking if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm
so if
fine
you're
with
fine
that.
with that, okay.
Yeah.
Please don't put my picture on nothing. Please. Okay. Next.
Is this item coming back to the next meeting, or?
It's the first read, though.
Okay,
isn't it?
thank you.
Is this the first read?
Yeah.
Yes, if it's the first read, then it comes back, but she's holding it.
To the 1st February, if that's okay.
Right.
Is that, okay.
Okay.
February, okay, thank you. The next item is council approval of amending the Title IV Environment, Chapter 6, Tree Preservation, expanding bond requirements.
Mr. Don, you walked out, and I wanted to ask you on the others that you have anything to add from staff.
Item number 30.
30A, but you walked out on the others.
For this one, I think that this has already gone through.
Okay. I'll entertain oh, that's the first read.
The first read was December 10th.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion if you'd like. Anybody? Okay.
Quick question, I am correct that the council did pull item 31 for consideration of
Yes, that's correct. This is not the third. This is the second read of this ordinance,
This is the
right?
second read. We need a motion.
Nobody wants to make a motion. Yeah.
No, this is for number 30. Council approval of amending the Title 14 Environment, Chapter 6, tree preservation bond
I
requirements.
move to approve amending Title 14 Environmental Chapter 6 Tree Preservation Expanding Bond Requirements.
I second.
Properly moved and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? That passes. Next.
And the last item is to discuss the invoices for the investigative hearing for the mayor and Councilmember Willis.
I move to approve Mayor Edwards' litigation invoice for the investigative hearing.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
I just want to be clear that there's a motion to approve the attorneys for the hearing that was never resolved for both the mayor and Councilwoman Willis. And there's a motion and a second for the city to pay for, what's the amounts? Anybody know the amounts?
Mayor Edwards' invoice is $12,000, and my invoice is 18.
So
and Marosic invoice was
I have the floor. Thank you. I have the floor. Councilwoman Willis, I think.
He still has.
Yeah, but yeah, so $30,000 for the attorneys of a defense that we never resolved. They're requesting, and somehow it's on the agenda for us to even discuss this, let alone vote to consider to pay it. So I'm only one vote up here. And I just want everybody in here to be eyes and ears as to how we decide to move forward based on when somebody says that there was a possibility that there were improprieties and now that was still unresolved, but yet as a council, we've all agreed that we're gonna move on and get towards healing. And now we're being pressed to raise our hands to vote in agreement to pay $30,000 for a defense that was never completed and allegations that were never really resolved, even though we're trying to allow the wound to close. So please go back out to your various districts, depending on how this vote goes, and know and share what's going on with your city council if this passes. I'm just one vote.
Let's vote, please.
So, discussion.
I just
No, because of discussion. So I know what is customary, and we have other municipalities we can look to. We saw a neighboring city try to basically do the same thing that just happened with us, remove a council, and guess what? They had to pay their litigation because it's in the. So again, when we move out here and do these things, we also have to look at the full picture. I have never seen a city that didn't pay for legal bills for their person, for their city council people in their role.
Let's go.
So, however you deal with that, and we look at the whole thing, and I think it's well noted. I jumped up and down about the cost because I already knew when you get a bunch of lawyers in the room, your bills are gonna go crazy. We got $56,000 for that, 12, 18. It is a lot of money. You know, Councilman Baker, have you done any research? What are you proposing? We just can't lead this up. Yeah, I'm asking a question.
I'm proposing two things, one or the other. There were egregious allegations brought forward. One council member stepped away. There was a situation where we never had an opportunity to hear a testimony from either Councilwoman Willis or our mayor in their own hearing. However, everyone who stepped to the stand, they had an opportunity to cross-examine them. Ultimately, in the absence of a councilwoman who had a sick relative, Councilwoman Willis was able to second her adjournment that you made the motion on.
I'm clear.
And then the mayor actually voted to adjourn his own hearing.
And you can do
excuse me, you gave me the floor.
Okay, go ahead.
And now we're questioning whether or not we should hold these people liable for their defense without a resolve.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm next. I have a question. So, if you really look at this, this was actually some council folks that brought the action against other council folks, right? So what is the difference between that and one council member who had to defend herself against another council member and had to go and get an outside attorney? Nobody paid her fee. So if we're gonna start paying fees, we need to be fair. We need to pay all fees, not just some fees. But that's a whole nother question. That's not out there tonight, but if we want to be fair, that's what we need to look at.
But wasn't that a person?
I recognize Ms. Guns, and I'm gonna call for the vote. Then you have the first. Go ahead, Mr. Clerk. Why don't you do it now? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll let Ms. Gomes go. Go ahead, Ms. Gomes.
I don't believe that one item that was specific to that councilwoman was brought to the council for us to even vote on her legal fees. So, I mean, I don't recall that even happening, period.
Excuse me, go ahead.
So, I mean, we adopted Fulton County's policy in regards to that we would handle the legal matters. And we've already seen it in other cities, and that's what they've been doing. They did it in Fairburn, they did it in East Point, and wherever else. Every city.
Okay, Mr. Khalid.
Okay, so first of all, here we are, 5 hours into a council meeting talking about 2019. But we're going to talk about it because it's on the agenda. You put it on the agenda, we're going to talk about it. The $30,000 that we spent on Mr. Morosic, one of the reasons that lawyers bill by the hour. So one of the reasons that it got up to $30,000 is because it took 69 days and 5 special council meetings to even get to the meeting, because we drug it out. And I'm bringing that up because when you drag things out, when you avoid just taking accountability or avoid even having the conversation, all you do is stretch things out and the bill just gets bigger. I mean, this is what happened with reparations, right? This is all legal bills. They grow until you finally resolve the issue. So that's important to understand. The second thing I think that's important to understand is that it is public knowledge that other people are suing us. And so when we make a precedent to pay legal fees without actually hearing a case, fighting a case, resolving a case, other people are coming for their check too. They are watching this meeting, and everybody is coming for their check. So if we're going to do this, I'm going to direct our city finance officer to just go ahead and put some money in a check cutting fund or make it go away fund for people who want to sue us and want to have their legal fees paid, or want to see if they can drag something out and then punk us down so that we don't we just throw our hands up and say we're just going to pay for anything. So with that, I'm going to yield to Mayor Pro Tem Baker. I'm sorry, you're not Mayor Pro Tem anymore. Councilman Baker.
Just Councilman. At the same time, I'm just curious, how do we even make an attempt to validate those invoices? We get an attempt to say, okay, we're going to pay $18,000 for one attorney who only showed up once. I think Helen's attorney was 12, but the other attorney who only showed up once in the stead of the actual attorney, and she gets $18,000 from us? And she admitted that she just got the case and never knew anything about it. But we're going to give her $18,000. And then we have a situation where the attorney who had, well, I can't necessarily push back because he told me I couldn't afford him. And he's right, especially if he's $12,000. But actually, you can afford him if you pay this $12,000.
Let us vote, please. All those in favor? That passes. Next.
That is the council agenda for today.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I gotta do, we have to do mine. Oh, you gotta make. What?
I thought, no, the motion was to, you made the motion for both of them.
Okay, good. What's, Madam Clerk, what?
That ends the council agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Proper moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Y'all have a good night.